Hi, I'm John Calarco, Holistic Health and Performance Coach. In this video, I'm going to show you how to strengthen your core with the Pallof press. Unleash your power, achieve your potential. If you have weak core muscles or hip muscles, or if you have a pelvis that's excessively tilted forward, we call that an anterior pelvic tilt, and maybe that's causing excessive extension and arching in the lower spine. Maybe you feel like your back muscles are tight all the time, or your stomach is kind of sticking out because of your spine posture, then the Pallof press is going to be a great exercise for you because it's going to help you build stability and strength in the abdominal muscles on the front side to balance out maybe some overtension on the back side. And it's going to help you improve that posture, of course, by strengthening your front side core muscles and getting your pelvis into more of a neutral position. It's also going to help you improve the posture of the rest of your spine as well. As we talk about the setup for the exercise, you'll see how we lengthen the spine and set it in a full neutral position. And of course, all of these things are going to help you prevent lower back pain and potentially begin to rehabilitate lower back pain. This exercise was actually created or popularized by a physical therapist named John Pallof, and the name Pallof press comes from his last name. So in this exercise, what we're going to primarily be training is anti-rotation of specifically the lower spine, the lumbar spine, is what we're looking to train our anti-rotation ability within. Now, anti-rotation is when a force is trying to pull us and rotate us, and we're fighting to not rotate, all right? That's why we call it an anti-rotation core training exercise. This type of a core training exercise lays the foundation for your rotational movement pattern, which is one of the 7 fundamental human movement patterns that, of course, you've heard me speak about in previous videos before. This exercise is where we actually want to start because we want to train that lower spine to not rotate, because the lower spine is not designed to rotate at all. It's designed to stay stable and in a neutral position with no rotation at those joints, while the thoracic spine above it rotates and the hips below it rotate. So when it comes to this exercise, we want to build a great foundation here before we start trying to do a lot of rotational exercises with bands or cables or any of that type of stuff, or even any specific rotation exercises just for the thoracic spine, because we want to first master the ability to keep that lumbar spine stable and in a good neutral position while we rotate and move at the thoracic spine and the hips. Okay, so this exercise, again, is really a key exercise and really the first exercise that I'll use with clients to start to develop their ability to maintain that proper lower spine position for the rotational human movement pattern. All right, so as I mentioned, the muscles that we're going to be primarily targeting are going to be the abdominal muscles. You have 3 kind of main abdominal muscles and kind of 3 layers of the core there. Primarily, we're going to be working that deeper layer, the transverse abdominis, okay, deep in the core. We'll be working the internal and external obliques as well, because their job is to rotate the thoracic spine there. And what we're going to do here is we're going to prevent that rotation, so those muscles are going to be very active. You'll also get some good training in the rectus abdominis, which is the actual 6-pack, the most outer layer of the core that you see, but it's not going to be targeted as much on this exercise as, say, like the dead bug exercise, which I showed you in the past, where we're working on actively flexing the spine. That type of exercise, you're going to get more of that outer core layer. Here, we're going to work more of the deeper core muscles that really stabilize and help keep the spine in that great neutral position. All right, so those are the main target muscles for the exercise. A couple other muscles we're going to be working on at a high level as well are going to be our hips and specifically our glutes. As we sit back and just into a little position, we're going to be loaded in the glutes. I'm going to show you some other variations that will challenge the hips even more on this exercise. And then there is a press involved, as the name says. So when we're pushing the band out and the band is trying to pull us, we are going to be working the chest, the shoulder muscles, even the serratus anterior muscle here, which is a very important muscle for moving the shoulder blade forward properly on the rib cage. We're going to be exercising that muscle quite a bit here as well, depending on the band tension that we use. So to that band tension, let's show you the setup for the exercise and we'll go through all the details. Now, you can use a band on this exercise or you can use a cable. All right, either one works great. I'm going to use a band in this scenario where I'm going to hook it here into my door to secure it. Now, there is a difference between using a band and a cable machine. If you're using a band, then the resistance increases as you walk out, okay? So you can increase your resistance by walking out further. With a cable machine, whatever number you set the cable stack at, of course, it's going to be that level of resistance for the entire exercise. So no matter how far you walk out, it's not going to change. So that is an important distinction to make here as you do the exercise, because if you do have a band, you're going to have to modulate the tension a little more based on how far you walk out. But either one works great for this exercise. To set our band or cable machine, if you're using that, you want to set the cable column or the band right at about sternum height. So in this case, I'm using an FMT band, which is my favorite kind of longer resistance band to use because it has these thick end pieces that I'm going to put in the door here to secure the band. If you don't have an FMT band, I'll link it in the description below for you if you do want to pick one up. Or if you do have a super band, which is just kind of the fully connected looped bands, you can wrap that around something as well to secure it. But this one I really like because I can take these thick end straps, I can open a doorway, put it in. All right, close the door, secure it, pull on it, make sure it's all good, make sure your door is fully closed, and then you're set to go, anywhere, anytime. It's something you can throw in your bag, so that's why it's my favorite band to use. So once you have that band set sternum height, what we'll do is we'll set our hands. All right, I'm gonna be facing this direction, so I like to set my inside hand on the band and then take my other hand over the top and stack it. Bring the band into the center of the chest before you go anywhere, because the challenge of the exercise is gonna be when we have the band out away from the body, so we can get set here in the proper posture before we begin by getting the band into the center of the chest. So that's where you want to start. Then you're going to walk it out, having that little bit of a mini squat position, so you're loaded in the glutes, you're loaded in the hips. Make sure you're about an arm's length behind the line of the band. Okay, that's really important so that when we push the band straight out, we have a direct perpendicular line of force pulling us on the band that's going to get us the best challenge. All right, so I walk out, I got my tension on the band to give me a good challenge of maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10 on a RPE challenge scale when I do my exercise, when I finish my set. So that's how you can gauge how much resistance to use. All right, so my hips are set. I'm in this little mini squat position. Feet are pointed directly forward. I'm gonna lengthen out my spine. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna tuck that chin back, get nice and long, pressing the crown of the head up to the ceiling. We're gonna be working that upper body posture as well as the lower body posture here as we work this exercise. Set the shoulders back and down, and then you're ready to begin the exercise. We'll initiate the Pallof press by exhaling through the mouth like we're blowing through a straw, which is gonna engage more of those deeper abdominal muscles. All right, and then from there, we're going to inhale as we return. So I'll show you some reps here. All right, exhale, push that band straight out. Don't let your posture change. Inhale as you return to that start position. All right, I'll show you a few reps. Exhale, press out, and make sure you're really fully pressing those shoulder blades forward. All right, that's what's gonna activate that serratus anterior muscle and get us that full press. And also, the biggest challenge of the exercise is when the band is straight out in front of us. Okay, so here's where the big challenge is. So we want to get those arms fully extended and we want to get those shoulders fully protracted here. All right, not only is that just helping us improve the mechanics of the way our shoulder blades move on the rib cage, but it's getting me the biggest challenge of the exercise, which is when it's all the way out straight. All right, so very simple exercise, but not easy to do. And again, you can make it as hard as you like based on the tension that you have on the band. All right, so of course, as we're working through this exercise, what we should feel is the abdominals really primarily getting the challenge and doing the work. Of course, you're stabilizing in the hips a little bit as well, but not so much in the symmetrical stance. I'll show you a few different stances in a moment. And then, of course, you're going to feel the chest and shoulders quite a bit as you're pressing out like you would for a cable press, like I've shown you in a previous video. You're going to feel the chest and shoulder muscles working, especially on the inside arm here, right? Because my chest is working to keep my shoulder horizontally adducted there, and my shoulder muscle, my anterior deltoid, is working to do that as well. So you are going to get that feeling in there as well, especially if you're using significant resistance. Now, in terms of the mistakes that we want to avoid on the Pallof press, the biggest one is what I described earlier. It's not rotating, okay? So when we get set, the biggest thing we don't want to let happen is as we go out with that band, we don't want to let that band pull us and rotate our body. All right, that's why we call it an anti-rotation core exercise, training that specific quality and function of the lumbar spine, of the core there. All right, so don't allow that band to rotate you at all, not even in the slightest. Hips, shoulders square to the wall in front of you the entire time. Also make sure that as you go through the exercise that you don't lose that spine position, okay? So exhale, and that's really gonna help you drive that core activation and make sure you're maintaining that neutral spine like you're ready for a punch in the stomach. We don't wanna get into a position where we're arching the spine and we're trying to rely on our lower back muscles for whatever reason. And we also don't want to be excessive with our flexing of the spine. We don't want to get here. We're not trying to do a crunch. We're trying to condition the spine to stabilize properly in its ideal postural position, which is a neutral curve and a neutral position. Again, usually a neutral position is going to be if you go to a fully extended position and you come off about 2 inches, you're ready for a punch in the stomach. Typically, that's going to be your best neutral spine position. So if you're not sure where that is, you can use that simple setup. Go ahead and arch as much as you can in your back. You'll feel those low back muscles engage. Then come off about 2, maybe 3 inches, ready for a punch in the stomach. Feeling those abdominals really engage there. And that's how you'll be in that perfect neutral spine. All right, so remember, don't lose it. And then the last piece is just make sure as you press that we don't excessively elevate the shoulders up like that, all right? As we do the press, our hands should start about sternum height, and then as we come up and press, the hands should elevate, and not just go forward, but they should come up slightly as well, so now my hands are in line with my shoulders as well. So again, as you press, make sure that you don't over excessively shrug up those shoulders as you complete the press. All right, so watch out for those common mistakes. Make sure you don't make them. And then there's quite a few variations you can do on the exercise, as I mentioned before. So I'll show you a few of them here that you can do to mix it up if you just want to change and get different challenges out of the exercise. And so the first one that we can think about doing is keeping the same foot position, all right, so the same body position, and we can think about doing a overhead press. So we can press out and not only just go forward, but we can go overhead, okay, which is another great challenge for the core there, and great demand. And now, as I mentioned earlier, when we're training that serratus anterior muscle that moves the shoulder blade forward, that muscle here that's right on the ribs, it really spans kind of like a fan from ribs 1 to 8 or even 9 on some people. All right, we're not only training that muscle in its function of moving the shoulder blade forward, now we're also training its function of upwardly rotating the shoulder blades as we go overhead. So we're getting some extra shoulder function training there, while at the same time improving that demand on our core, which is now not only anti-rotation, now it's a little bit of an anti-lateral flexion core exercise, right? So I'm fighting against laterally flexing my spine. So it's really one of my favorite variations to add in that you can do on the Pallof press. Another great one too is to get us a little more dynamic. We can set ourselves, press the band out, and then we can do a little bit of a lateral walk, okay? Whether we're just going back and forth or whether you're taking multiple steps out, same exact thing. Maintain that posture. You're gonna find it's a little bit harder because now your feet are coming off the ground, and each time that they come off the ground, you're gonna have to kind of re-stabilize. It's gonna force those stabilizers to work even harder to maintain that posture and not rotate. All right, so those are two of my favorite variations in terms of different things you can do overall, but still you're working in a symmetrical stance. Then from there, we can work in multiple different stances. From the standing position, you could do a split stance variation. Typically, I'd have the outside leg here, or it's the inside leg in this case, but to you, it's the outside leg. But in terms of the band, it's my inside leg is up. I'm in the split stance position. All right, band in the center of the chest. All right, nothing changed. It's the same thing. I have about 50-50 of my weight on each foot, so I'm evenly distributed here. My ball of foot is down on the backside. And on this exercise, of course, now we're in more of an asymmetrical stance. So there'll be a little bit more demand on the hips, and the hips specifically, to stabilize your posture here. Something we can do to really juice up the stabilization challenge in the hips, and not just the hips now, but the foot and ankle as well, is we can play with single leg stance variation. So this is another thing you can add in if you do want to train your feet and ankles for whatever reason. Maybe you want to prevent injuries as a basketball player, spraining your ankles, or maybe you need to kind of rehab some old ankle injuries, whatever it is to strengthen your feet and ankles. We can go with the band in the center of the chest. I would generally start people here with a kickstand down of just having the toes down on the ground, or you could have it on a step like this, but just in this case, I'm gonna show you if I'm kickstanding on the ground, 90% of my weight's on the back leg. I'm gonna lengthen up nice and tall, and then from there, I'm gonna exhale. All right, and now I'm getting some good single leg balance, single leg stance work training. Then we would progress that to just taking the foot off the ground. All right, and as you can see, it's hard to balance. I don't even have that much tension on. All right, so if I'm single leg stance, all right, and I'm pressing my toes hard into the ground. If you're doing this leg down, then you're going to challenge more of the pronators of the foot, and you're going to be actively pressing that big toe and pressing the foot in. Then you can do that outside foot as well if you want to work that. That's going to work more of the supinators of the ankle there, and you're going to work a little bit more of kind of training to get into a better arched position. So if you want to improve the arches in your feet, you know, again, here or here. All right, working that exercise. You can always use this foot to tap down if you are doing the single leg stance variation, and just reset your balance. So if I'm getting thrown off balance here, I can just tap, okay, just to reset myself if I do need to, and also for safety purposes as well. So really quite a few great variations you could do on this exercise. Those are all the different ones we could do standing. So I hope that gives you a good range of exercise to choose from if you do kind of maybe get bored with the symmetrical stance version. And then just two more I'll show you on the ground. We can take an RX pad or a soft pad on the ground, and we can go set the pad back again so we can have those arms about a full length behind the band there. And then we can do a half kneeling position. All right. Generally, actually, I would start people with the tall kneeling position on this exercise in general, because we're getting more of that just true core and hip stabilization. We don't have the full legs under us. So bands in the center of the chest, squeezing the glutes nice and tall there, okay? Gonna get us some really good hip and core stabilization work without the rest of our legs supporting. Then, as I mentioned, we can go half kneeling. We're gonna get 90% of the weight back on this back leg when we do the half kneeling version, squeezing the back glute, pelvis is tucked, just like I taught you previously in the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. I can raise my front foot up off the ground, band in the center of the chest, same thing. All right, inhaling as I return. Now, you can even, as I mentioned, when you're standing, you could switch your feet and do the opposite way. I typically will have the inside leg forward on this exercise because I use it and then progress my clients to doing a thoracic rotation, which is a little bit of a different exercise where we're actually rotating the band and maintaining that good neutral core position. And we'll do that exercise with the inside leg up. So, but again, you could do either leg. You could have this leg up. If you are working in the standing position, you can work either leg forward. Split stance can be here, it can be here, and then you can work either foot on the single leg variation. Now, in terms of when you should practice this exercise or when you should perform it, what we're gonna think about on this exercise is using it really two different ways. Number one, we're gonna use it to develop our core. So we're gonna use it in our core circuits, you know, whether that's at the beginning or the end of your workouts, you know, paired with other core exercises. Of course, you could use it as a standalone core exercise, but typically that's when you wanna do it as part of your core training routine. But another great way to use this exercise is for preparation for, say, your big lifting exercises. If you are doing, you know, heavy strength training, you're doing heavy deadlifts, you're doing heavy squats, you know, any big full body exercise where the core has a significant demand, this is a great exercise to go ahead and prep your abdominal muscles, get them firing up a little bit more to function better in those full body exercises that put a big demand on the spine. So before your big deadlifts and big squats, it's a great exercise you can use during those times. Now, in terms of the sets and reps and how we would use this exercise there, what we're gonna think about is about 2 to 3 sets. If we're using it as a core training exercise, we're gonna think about 2 to 3 sets. Typically, I'll start clients out by practicing this exercise with repetitions as I showed you, going in and out, right? So, you know, maybe 10 to 15 repetitions going in and out, holding that front position for at least 2-3 seconds. But then over time, I actually like to progress them to just holding the front position. Because that's really where most of the challenge is. So working up, you know, doing 10-second holds at a time, doing 4 to 6 10-second holds, and then even working up and doing 30, 60-second holds just out in the front position with as much weight as you can handle with perfect posture is really where you can take this exercise if you want to do it that way. So again, you can do presses in and out or holds depending on what you want to do and how you want to use the exercise in your core circuits. Then if you're using it for a prep movement in the beginning of your training, obviously you don't need to do that much. Maybe you just need to do one set of 10 reps. Maybe you do one 30 to 45-second hold just to get things firing up. Maybe you want to do 2 sets depending on how you feel. Totally up to you. But that's how we would use the exercise in terms of the sets and reps. And how many times should you do it per week? It depends. Again, if you're a beginner and this is a main core development exercise for you and you're not doing a ton of different exercises yet because you haven't learned them, then maybe you're doing this exercise 2 or even 3 times a week. But as you get more advanced, it's probably an exercise you're just going to do once a week, and maybe, if you're using it as a preparation routine, then that's a different story. You could use it every day. But if you're training the exercise, you're using it as a core training exercise, then you're probably only using it once a week and you're training the other functions of the core like anti-extension, anti-lateral flexion, and then actual flexion, extension, lateral flexion, and the other various functions of the core. Okay, so it probably fits in as just something you would do once per week. All right, so I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If it was, go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate that. Drop me a comment below. Let me know when you're committed to practicing this exercise, as it's such a great exercise that probably everyone should have incorporated into their program. So let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And then make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because as I mentioned, this is really the first exercise in a series where I'm going to show you how to build the core strength that you need to be able to rotate and perform the rotational human movement pattern, especially with resistance, with proper technique, and of course safely, because when we rotate, we have that risk of rotating through the lower spine and potentially injuring it, and we don't want that to happen, especially if you're playing any rotational sports like golf or tennis. We definitely want to prevent that. So make sure you do subscribe. Don't miss out on those future videos. And hey, if you want to be personally coached by me to lose 15 to 40 plus pounds and develop high-level strength and conditioning through exercises like this, while improving your posture and preventing injury, then hit the link in the description below and you can learn more about that there as well. Until the next one, unleash your power, achieve your potential.